Vice President Shatima receives executive members of National Youth Council of Nigeria. Restates Tinubu's administration commitment to support Nigerian youths.
More young people have been engaged in this government than the previous government. That one will give it to the president.
Tripartite Committee on National Minimum Wage submits report to Secretary to the Government of the Federation.
"35 House of Representative members seek rotational presidency, single tenure of 6 years for president and state governors."
We are seeking for all elections to be conducted in one day, reducing the cost of conducting election, getting more citizens involved on election day.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall focus on proposed scrapping of state independent electoral commissions.
Precisely Monday, the 22nd of May 2024, Chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmood Yakub, while meeting with the Forum of State Independent Electoral Commissions in Abuja, described the conduct of local government elections in the 36 states as a mere coronation of candidates of ruling political parties in the states.
Well, just like Mahmood Yakubu, in the same vein, Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Lateef Fagbemi also in May. It looks like May was a month to talk about elections, of course, looking forward to Edo and the Ondo off-cycle elections. And
coming soon.
Yeah. So the Attorney General actually called for the scrapping of the state independent electoral commissions. That's talking about the SIECs. According to him, governors have abused the rights of local governments by using the state independent electoral commissions to impose leaders on them through sham elections. Now, Fagbemi said the powers of the state independent electoral commissions should be transferred to INEC.
This did not go. This did not come as a surprise, given that the Senate had at one time voted to guarantee democratically constituted local government councils through elections to be conducted by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, a proposal targeted at stripping state governments of the power to control polls at the grassroots.
Now, currently, taking a look at the Nigerian Constitution, the 1999, which empowers the states to constitute state independent electoral commissions for the conduct of local government elections. Though most of the states have, at the mercy of the governors, caretaker committees in charge of local councils.
Even when local elections hold, the process is usually trailed by complaints from the opposition over alleged compromise of the set. In virtually all cases, the party of the sitting governor sweeps the local government elections, regardless of the strength of the opposition party in the state.
Now, a controversial proposal that has sparked intense debate in Nigeria's political landscape is the proposed scrapping of state independent electoral commissions.
An election observer group, Yaga Africa, among others, has warned against abolishing the state independent electoral commission and transferring their duties to the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. Yaga Africa said abolishing the SECs and transferring their responsibilities to INEC would overstretch the commission and undermine the autonomy of states.
The executive director of Yaga Africa, Samson Etodo, said, and I quote, "Yaga Africa has observed increasing calls for the abolition of state independent electoral commissions and the transfer of the responsibility of conducting local government elections to INEC. This policy proposal is fundamentally flawed and would have far-reaching implications for Nigeria's 25-year democracy if implemented. First, it will overstretch and overburden INEC, leading to poorly conducted local elections. End
Yeah.
of quote.
That's true. Nick Dazan, public affairs analyst and former director of voter education and publicity at INEC, also suggested that the best way to salvage and fortify the sects is to subject them to the kinds of guardrails, reform measures, capacity buildings, and innovations, all of which INEC went through or were instituted in the past 2 decades. Their activities should also be subjected to the rigorous scrutiny of the media and civil societies. Like INEC's, sects should be robustly funded.
Now, they should draw funding from the first line charge of the state revenue, according to some stakeholders on the matter. And by the same token, only persons of unimpeccable integrity and persons without political affiliations should be appointed to their boards. I'm talking about unimpeccable integrity. How are you able to determine that? And then how do you get to, find people without political affiliations? Because somehow,
Big question.
Well, these
Well,
are the issues, really. And of course, some have said there should be fixed tenures and the tenures should be secure. And this will confer stability, help in long-term planning and implementation, as well as build institutional memory. Now, the State Independent Electoral Commission should have a bureaucracy manned by competent officials to run its administration, operations, and to conduct voter education for the long haul. They should also engage with stakeholders on a structured basis.
And so, join us as we delve into the argument for and against this proposal and explore its potential consequences for Nigeria's political landscape. Our guests, experts in their individual rights, will provide insight and analysis on the program. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. I am Ademola Adeoye.
And I hope with these few points of ours, we've been able to convince you that today's program is going to be very interesting. So we expect you to stay put. I'm Yanre John. I join Ademola to welcome you to the program. We're live on the network service of the NTA. We'll have the newspaper review on the bait. Chukwudi Okoli-Gbaja will be joining us for that. But for now, let's take a peep into what's trending. And we've got the beautiful Ogochukwuka Ona right here with us to lead us. Good morning, Ogo. How you doing?
Very well, thank you, Yenre. Good morning, and also to Ademola. Good morning, and good morning, Nigerians. President Bola Tinubu has approved the appointment of DIG Hashimu Argungu, retired, as the chairman of the Police Service Commission. A statement by Ajorin Gelale, special advisor to the president on media and publicity, says the president has approved the appointment of Chief Onyemuche Nnamani as secretary and DIG Taiwo Lakanu, retired, as a member of the commission. The appointments are subject to confirmation by the Senate. Other members of the Police Service Commission will be appointed in due course. Also, the president has approved the appointment of Mr. Mohammed Shaidu as the Executive Secretary of the Nigeria Police Trust Fund with immediate effect. The president expects absolute demonstration of integrity, diligence, and patriotic zeal in the discharge of these important functions for the overall well-being of the Nigeria Police and the nation. Vice President Kashim Shettima has restated the commitment of the Bola Tinubu's administration to support Nigerian youths to reach their potential and contribute to the growth and development of the country. He stated this when he received on a courtesy visit the executive members of the National Youth Council of Nigeria at the presidential villa.
I believe that when he wants to talk about youth, currently we have gotten more from the present government than the previous government. More young people have been engaged in this government than the previous government. That one we give it to the president.
The Tripartite Committee on National Minimum Wage has submitted its reports to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. A statement by Director Information and Public Relations, Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Segun Imohiosen, says the committee, which was tasked with the responsibility of recommending a new national minimum wage for Nigerian workers in public and private sectors, concluded its assignment and submitted report to the Secretary to the Government of the Federation on Monday, 10th June 2024. A formal presentation of the report will be made to the President for appropriate action when the leadership of organized labor, as well as representatives of government and organized private sector who are presently in Geneva, Switzerland for the ongoing International Labour Organization ILO conference return to the country. And now the Niger Delta Development Commission is partnering the private sector to sustain development initiatives in the region while defending the 1.9 trillion 2024 budget proposal before the Senate Committee on Niger Delta. The Managing Director, Dr. Samuel Obuku, says completion of ongoing projects is priority for desired transformation. Chairman of the Senate Committee on NDDC, Senator Asuko Ekpeyong, says President Tinubu has directed the Commission to assess projects in order to resolve issues of variation with contractors. The NDDC reassured that it would, in the next 10 years, allocate 100 million naira each for debt repayment.
Due to delayed or non-payment of contractors who were duly engaged, executed their contracts, what is it in this budget, or how do you intend to mitigate these issues?
We have moved away from the previously line item budgeting system to sectoral allocation of funds to encourage performance.
And now a group of 35 lawmakers in the House of Representatives are seeking the support of Nigerians for several constitution alteration bills proposing single tenure of 6 years for the president and state governors. At a press briefing on the bills, spokesperson for the group known as Reform-Minded Lawmakers, Ikagwono Ugochinyere, says part of the reforms being proposed are rotation of executive powers among the 6 geopolitical zones to ensure equal representation, as well as constitutional amendments to create the office of 2 vice presidents from the southern and northern parts of Nigeria. The political and electoral bills, which have passed first reading at the Green Chamber, also propose that all elections are held on the same day, while electronic transmission of results be made compulsory.
Single tenure for the presidency and single tenure for the governorship 6 years, removing the billions we spend in re-election and the uncertainty it brings to our electoral process, plus the corruption it also brings. And also, we are seeking for all elections to be conducted in one day, reducing the cost of conducting election, getting more citizens involved on election day.
ECOWAS Community Court sitting in Abuja has dismissed the suit filed by former National Security Advisor Sambo Dasuki, seeking an order compelling the federal government to enforce its verdicts delivered in his favor on October 4, 2016. In his verdict, Judge Rapporteur Sengu Koroma dismissed the application on the grounds that the court lacked jurisdiction to entertain or enforce the earlier judgment. Koroma held that the court was guided by laid-down procedures regarding the enforcement of its judgment as enshrined in the community law and the proper party to institute an enforcement failure claim. The court thereby held that, having thoroughly assessed the claims and its constitutive tests, it lacks the competence to adjudicate on the present claim. The Community Court, in its verdicts on October 4, 2016, declared Sambo Dasuki's arrest and detention by the federal government unlawful and a violation of his rights. And those are the highlights of the news at this time. Good Morning Nigeria will now continue with Ademola and Ian Ray, but this will be after the break.
The Secretary to the Government of the Federation and Chairman, Interministerial Committee on 25th Democracy Day Celebration, Senator George Akume, CON, invites all cabinet members, all heads of agencies and parastatals, royal fathers, civil society organizations, civil servants on grade level 14 to 17, stakeholders in the media industry and interested members of the public to the activities to mark the 25th Democracy Day celebration scheduled to hold as follows. 25th Democracy Day Symposium. Date Tuesday, 11th June 2024. Venue State House Conference Center, Presidential Villa, Abuja. Time 9 a.m. Democracy Day Youth Conference. Date Tuesday, 11th June 2024. Venue Ladikwali Hall, Abuja Continental Hotel, Abuja. Time 6 p.m. Democracy Day Parade. Date Wednesday, 12th June 2024. Venue Eagle Square, Abuja. Time 8 a.m. Democracy Day Dinner. Date Wednesday, 12th June 2024. Venue State House Banquet Hall, Presidential Villa, Abuja. Time 6 p.m. All invited guests are to assemble at the Old Parade Ground at 8 a.m. to join accredited buses that will convey them to Eagle Square. Announcer Mohammed Idris, FNIPR, Honorable Minister of Information and National Orientation and Chairman, Media and Publicity Subcommittee.
For Epic 10X Challenge.
My people, today now.
Today, I will show you how the power of new Epic 10X gives your toilet a better cleaning than bleach.
Than bleach?
Yes, so.
Impossible.
Toilets have stains which bleach cannot clean effectively. But Epic is thicker and sticks better, which gives 10X better cleaning versus bleach and kills germs.
Oh, wow.
You can now see that Epic is better than bleach.
Some say learning is fun, but as a mom, I see how demanding it can be for my child. That's why I ensure he starts every day with a cup of Bonvita. Give your child Bonvita. It contains essential vitamins and minerals that support mental and physical vitality. Bonvita. Prepare them to win every day.
Buy a Risco product.
As the month of Dhul Hajj approaches, this is a special time to remember Allah and spend extra time in good deeds. This is a unique opportunity to sincerely repent, get closer to Allah, and combine acts of worship in a way that is impossible at any other time of the year. Furthermore, giving charity attracts great reward, especially in these first 10 days of Dhul Hajj. The world is facing global economic crisis with millions on brink of starvation. You can make a huge difference by supporting and sponsoring this year's Hadaya sacrificial animal to needy communities in our country. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "For every hair of the Hadaya, you receive a reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala." Free Hafiz scholarship programs for youth is one of our development projects. With your support, we can build conviction in the heads of Muslims individuals and reunite as community to benefit humanity. For donations to actualize these novel initiatives, Non-Violent Peace Initiative account number 1771660076, Bank Polaris Bank, or Guaranteed Trust Bank account number 0457070109. Management Announcer.
The Secretary to the Government of the Federation and Chairman, Interministerial Committee on 25th Democracy Day Celebration, Senator George Akume, CON, invites all cabinet members, all heads of agencies and parastatals, royal fathers, civil society organizations, civil servants on grade level 14 to 17, stakeholders in the media industry and interested members of the public to the 25th Democracy Day Symposium, scheduled to hold as follows. Theme: 25 Years of Enduring Democracy. Prospects for the Future. Keynote speaker, His Excellency Aminu Bello Masari, CFR. Deputy Chairman of the Day, Ambassador Babagana Kingibe, GCON. Chairman of the Day, His Excellency Former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, GCFR. Date Tuesday, 11th June 2024. Venue State House Conference Center, Presidential Villa, Abuja. Time 9 a.m. All invited guests are urged to arrive and park their vehicles at the Eagle Square, as authorized vehicles to access the venue have been provided. Pickup time is 7 a.m. This event is strictly by invitation. Announcer Mohammed Idris, FNIPR, Honorable Minister of Information and National Orientation, and Chairman, Media and Publicity Subcommittee.
Thanks for staying with us. Up next on the program is Newspaper Review. Stay with us.
All right, I got a news for reviewer here. I wanted to say, we got a Chukwudi Okolo here.
I am not yours. I am not for Good Morning Nigeria. Do I hold anything back?
I guess.
For the 15 minutes you're with us, you are ours.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I understand the stuttering. It's natural.
You were discussing before the camera came in. So
that actually it was that discussion. Yes.
We're talking about the match.
We were talking about our anger. Please stop being so euphemistic. I was annoyed yesterday. I was annoyed. Something has to happen to that team.
Yeah, somebody said something yesterday. I just said Finidi George has finished us.
It's not Finidi George. My gangling Finidi George is going to do well. It is the team.
Has finished us.
They did well, yes. In the last competition, they came second. But I can tell you that those boys run essentially flat-footed. They have to run on the balls of their feet. Like that South African attacker.
That's Coach Chukwudi Okolo then.
Well,
thank you so much for the sports techniques. Let's quickly look at the papers and the headlines that are leading this morning. We'll begin with the leadership. And the lead story here is on compressed natural gas. Conversion cost, infrastructure deficit threatening CNG initiative. Riders, 1.6 litre engine conversion cost 400,000 naira. Experts decry distribution expenses, and details on page 4 of the leadership. Above that, we have a story that is trending. It's from the House of Reps. Again, lawmakers want 6-year single tenure for president governors. Details on page 20. Beside the lead story, we have CBN dismisses license revocation rumors. Details on page 22. Below that, Ida Kabru, prices soar. Ram sells for 1 million naira in Kaduna. So the question is, how many civil servants can afford that?
You must be joking. I know it's not my time. 1 million what?
Naira.
Okay.
That's in Kaduna. In Abuja, maybe 1.2.
The cheapest actually is 750,000.
But Ademola, what are you talking about?
That's the immature RAM.
So how many of our Muslim brothers and sisters can afford the RAM?
Well, it's not compulsory.
Are you sure it's not compulsory?
It is not. It's not by force. If you cannot afford it, do it something else.
All right. Let's look away from that story. But of course, I'm hoping that my Muslim friends would actually get salad, the salah meat. So if you like, what is it called? Salah ram.
It's salah ram, which means that the
How
number of places.
There's this Muslim who always will send us mutton.
Don't bank on it.
That's meat of a sheep.
Don't expect it.
It's not likely to come anymore. So I have a personal stake in the matter.
Me too, because I mean, before now you would have seen, these rams being tied to everywhere you go. You just see a ram here, ram. But I've walked through my streets. I've not seen one single ram. Chooks.
All right.
Which means that the likelihood of me getting a ram this year, it's 0. Anyway, let's continue.
Let's look above the masthead. Edo Ondo polls. INEC wants corrupt officials against compromise. Details on page 7. And yes, minimum wage. We won't resume strike for now. That's according to Ajero. And the question is why. You want to read up that to find out what's going on. And then we have plane carrying Malawi's Vice President Mason. Details on page 19. So that's it from the leadership this morning. Let's quickly turn our attention to the New Telegraph. The New Telegraph leads with reps seek rotational 6-year single term for president, governors, 2 vice presidents. Of course, that's on all the papers this morning and it is trending. You want to see what that's about. Below the picture story, we have 27 Rivers lawmakers, still PDP members. Court rules. Page 4 would guide you. Minimum wage, Labour awaits Tinubu's executive bill to determine next line of action. SGF receives tripartite panel report. Details on pages 2 and 5. And then just quickly looking away from that now, we have CBN external debt servicing gulped $2.19 billion in 5 months. Reassures bank customers of funds safety. All right, that's it this morning. And then, of course, the reshufflement in the Police Service Commission is also right here. Tinubu removes Arase, appoints Arungugu as new PSC chair. Shaidu now NPTF boss. So that's it. But we have this one in the green strip. Evening physical activity lowers blood sugar levels, according to a study. That's one story you want to see.
That's interesting.
Evening physical activity lowers blood sugar levels, according to reports.
That's interesting.
And,
so it's not just about having exercises in the morning.
And the issues with blood sugar are beginning to really increase in this country. People should be careful, very important. That you're not at the insulin level of control doesn't mean you shouldn't be concerned. Because even the drugs you take, some of them are becoming more and more expensive. You know?
Yeah, they are. Okay, let me just quickly read the Daily Sun newspaper that I have with me. Just beside the nameplate, we have strike, no work, no pay. OPS threatens NLC and TUC. The details can be found on page 26. Constitutional amendments, I think Larry has read that. Reps propose 6-year single tenure for president and governors. Details is on page 6. We have lost over 400 persons. Igbo community in Benue cries out. Details of that story can be found on page 4. Federal government advocates harmonization of NIN, TIN for access to information. Details on page 28. NDDC prepares for imminent flooding to build emergency shelter. Southwest governors reaffirm support for state police. Details of that story is on page 26. Terrorists kill 4 policemen, 2 security corps officers, 20 others in Katsina State. Details of that story is on page 5. Chooks.
You know, when I see cohesion by a particular part of this country, I really praise it. Southwest governors, there's something about them that I like. It's just like when I come here and I talk about Zulum, I talk about the NDLEA man, you know. They launched the Southwest anthem, Ishenwa Fuilewa, to show you how cohesive they are.
Ishenwa Fuilewa.
Ishenwa Fuilewa. I didn't get it right?
You tried.
I've tried, please. Okay? Then they are saying we are going into massive food production. And they have given orders, not marching orders. Nigerian editors keep on misusing that word. Marching orders means you're sacking somebody from their post. They've given them directives to get this done. I like the cohesiveness, the cohesion that Southwest governors, you know, show. At that meeting, they elected Sanwo-Olu as the chairman of the forum there. And I like it. Of course, the state police thing they're supporting, I've told you, it's a matter of time.
What's this thing
we'll
about
all
anthems?
get to know that state police is good for every one of us. We'll get there. Yes,
state police.
I'm just asking, what's the thing about anthems, you know, this season?
Look, certain things go beyond symbolism to actually touch on the unity of a people. It's part of communication. Don't want to go into that because Chooks the boy is not going to stop.
By the
okay?
way, Edo launched theirs recently too.
Who?
Edo State. They have an anthem now.
Edo is just a state. I talked about the cohesion I see in the Southwest.
No, my question
That's the region.
It should become an example to other parts of Nigeria. I know what I'm talking about. Yes.
Anyway, but for the average Nigerian, they'll just be asking that, you know, should we be concerned about anthems at this critical, you know, time, you know, that the nation is currently facing a lot of, I feel like...
We could as well not be
economic...
concerned about our culture because there's hunger in the land. This Gen Z, is that what they call them?
The Gen Z.
They have their ideas. You're not necessarily part of it.
I'm not a Gen Z.
Tripartite committee
she thinks like one.
submits report. Labour insists on living wage. Actually, Southwest Governor said we are waiting for FG Labour negotiation, you know, endpoint before we make our own decision. Again, one of the decisions they took yesterday. Now, let's quickly say that concerning the NLC, remember the ILO meeting took them away to Geneva and all that. When they come back, they're going to continue. And the plea is keep jawing. We'll get there. We will. Keep jawing. One last one. Alleged 423 billion naira fraud. EFCC resisting to probe El-Rufai. Please, El-Rufai is innocent till proved guilty. But the reason I'm raising this, I said it the other time, for an APC former governor to be investigated by an APC incumbent governor is good news for Nigeria in terms of accountability. We are tired of it's a family affair.
Thank you very much, Chooks. Well, we just have to sign you off.
I actually need to thank you too, the interview panel here. NHIS came on the other time and you told them that when it's the computer going to start working again, they've started working again. We thank you so much.
Thank you.
And of course, we thank NHIS too.
Thank you
we
for the
thank
feedback.
NTA.
Thank you. All right, thank you.
But I'm quite surprised. Before we let you go, I'm quite surprised they didn't talk about this 6-year single term for president and governors that the rest.
Because you don't start a sentence with because. I didn't do that because...
No, you are responding actually.
it's okay. I didn't do that because I know that the time is not on our side.
Of course.
Otherwise, trust the parrot.
I'm looking forward to hear your view about that.
I sure will talk about it.
Maybe, okay. All right, we now take a break now. Good Morning Nigeria continues. Stay with us.
A good farmer is a craftsman of the highest order. It is said, great farmer, great nation. No farmer, no nation. Yes, let's set the ball rolling to build that great Nigeria where good food is in abundance, affordable and easily accessible. The Renewed Hope Initiative, RHI, an initiative of the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, CON, is aligning with the vision and aspiration of the administration of President Bola Tinubu, GCFR, and is organizing the Every Home a Garden competition. The competition is under the scope of agriculture of the Renewed Hope Initiative. For the competition, women are encouraged to immediately plant a garden at home, such that the harvest can provide adequate food on their table and enough to give their neighbor. This competition is open to only women. She must be a first-time farmer. The garden must be in her home, and it is open to women in every state of the Federation and the FCT. Interested participants should do a 30-second video and a picture of the garden, which indicates its location, to the office of the First Ladies of their various states. The winner of this competition will be announced in December 2024, and the winner of the competition goes home with 20 million naira. Women, join the train. Be part of the food revolution in Nigeria. What are you waiting for? Let's get to work. This message is by the Renewed Hope Initiative, RHI, an initiative of the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, CON.
We're live in the open market for Epic 10X Challenge. My people, today I will show you how the power of new Epic 10X gives your toilet a better cleaning than bleach.
Than bleach?
Yes, so.
Impossible.
Toilets have stains which bleach cannot clean effectively. But Epic is thicker and sticks better, which gives 10X better cleaning versus bleach and kills germs.
Oh, wow.
You can now see that Epic is better than bleach.
Are you married? I'm single. You are single?
Kemi, name the best thing about Christmas holiday.
Love.
My favorite Christmas carol is Dash.
We wish you a Merry Christmas.
Name a gift parents would most likely give to their children for Christmas.
Food.
Shoes. Money.
Christmas decoration.
Vacation.
A vacation. A location, Toby.
Village.
All right, survey says.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
This na GoTV, and now for here you fit watch better football from Mbappe. Ball wey Kane use the TNet, Ronaldo. And all the big boys we go follow drag the who go be Oga of Europe. Now who go become the Baba of Europe? Watch all the 51 games live on Top Super Sport from GoTV Jolly to Super Plus and GoTV Stream. Euro 2024 live. It goes sweet on Top GoTV. Love it.
All right, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. And to begin our conversation on proposed scrapping of state independent electoral commissions, let's take a look at this background report put together by our correspondent, Joseph Otsen.
An election is a fundamental feature of any democracy, which provides citizens opportunity to elect leaders and representatives of their choice. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, is responsible for conducting elections at the federal and state levels in Nigeria, while the State Independent Electoral Commission does same for the local government councils and wards. In recent times, INEC has received lots of commendations for the implementation of electoral reforms, especially the use of technology leading to more credible elections in the country. On the other hand, the State Independent Electoral Commission has faced backlash for being rubber stamp of state governors, as in most cases, only those on the governor's wish list end up winning elections. It is clear that almost all seats in council and ward elections conducted since 1999 were won by candidates of ruling political parties and sitting governors, with opposition parties and election observers questioning credibility of the electoral processes. Many political analysts have proposed scrapping of the state electoral body and its powers transferred to INEC to guide home a better exercise. Not long ago, INEC Chairman Professor Mahmoud Yakubu described the conduct of local government elections in virtually all states of the Federation as mere coronation of candidates of the ruling parties.
Some state independent electoral commissions are only constituted on the eve of elections and dissolved thereafter.
Adding his voice is the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi. He says governors have exploited flaws in certain sections of the 1999 Constitution to effectively abuse the rights of local governments by using SIEC to impose leaders through sham elections. He has suggested a robust constitutional amendment that will remove all hindrance to the development of local governments and bolster their abilities to fulfill constitutionally recognized mandates. The federal government has also dragged the 36 state governors to the Supreme Court in its quest to drive full autonomy for local governments.
If we are to address our critical national challenges, doing this requires legislation that safeguards and enhances the autonomy and effectiveness of this vital tier of government. The need for such action has become even more urgent in the light of the widespread abuse of the local government system by subnational governments.
However, an election observer, Yaga Africa, is having a different view to the increasing calls for the abolition of state independent electoral commissions. It says the idea will overburden INEC, leading to poorly conducted local elections, over concentration of power in the federal government, and local communities will be stripped of opportunities to participate in decision-making. Where then will a level playing ground be mapped out to enhance a fair and credible elections and good governance at the local governments? Guests on Good Morning Nigeria will share perspectives to this debate.
Well, thank you, Joseph, for that background report there. And to discuss more on this issue, proposed scrapping of State Independent Electoral Commission SECs, we have in the studio the former Director, Voter Education and Publicity INEC, Mr. Nick Dazan. You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Good. Okay, Larry.
All right, also joining us for the conversation, but via Zoom, is Samson Etodo, Executive Director, Yaga Africa. Samson, good morning to you.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
All right, also joining us via Zoom for the conversation is Sam Elianya, Executive Director, Center for Republican Law and Policy. He's also an editor and publisher, lawnigeria.com. Many thanks for joining us, Mr. Sam.
And thanks.
All right, thank you for joining us for this conversation this morning. Let's come back to the studio and let's start with Nick. Nick, you've been in this electoral process for so many years before you retired. Now let's have your take on this proposed scrapping of state electoral, commissions.
Thank you very much. I think at first blush, and given the legion of challenges that the state independent electoral commissions face, some of which were catalogued by the ANEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, when the executive members of FOSECON, that is the Forum for State Independent Electoral Commissions, visited him. But you could see from what we have experienced or seen of the SECs that even the catalogue he listed was not exhaustive. There are other failings, there are other peccadillos of the SECs that he did not even enumerate. There are many. And I recall that in 2013, we had a retreat, the first retreat with state independent electoral commissions, INEC and FOSECON in Ilorin. And as soon as we were through with the retreat, because in INEC what we used to do is that anytime we had an experience sharing retreat or meeting, we are summoned, we are challenged to be candid. And in the course of that experience sharing retreat that we held with the state independent electoral commissions, the then INEC chairman, Professor Atahiru Jegana, challenged them to be candid so that we could see how we could help them. And in fact, before then, we had a memorandum of understanding with the SECs. We observed their elections, they also observe ours. And all these are with a view to improving the conduct of elections at the local government levels and at the federal level. Okay. And a member of one of the state independent electoral commissions was very candid in his presentation about the challenges that they faced. By the time he returned to his post, he was sacked. So there are so many failings, which, for example, most of them are run on ad hoc basis. They are not constituted according to law. Most of the time, even budgets are not appropriated for them. Even where they are appropriated, they have to go cap in begging, in hand begging for the budgets to be appropriated and the funds given to them. And then you also see a situation where most of the members are appointed on the basis of patronage. So they work in cahoots with the governors to return their candidates. A recent example is the conduct of local government elections in Gombe and Oyo State on Saturday, 27th April 2024, in which the candidates of the APC in Gombe State and the PDP in Oyo State were all returned by the two, by Gombe SEC and Oyo SEC. So these, I would say they are charades. They have consequences. First of all, there's no level playing field. Those who conduct the elections are partisans. They are not impartial. And because the outcome is predetermined, you discover that members of the opposition hardly even contest the elections. So, in spite of these challenges, for which a lot of people have said, please just scrap them, I think that it would be hasty, and it would go against the grain of true federalism that we have been advocating for. The intentment of the framers of our constitution ab initio was, to assert that the independence of the SECs. Unfortunately, the mandate of the SECs is so abridged. There are two major issues: the conduct of local government elections, and then they are working in concert with INEC to generate a register. They can advise INEC, and so INEC gives them the register that it generates conduct elections. So apart from that, you discover that the mandate is so abridged as to minimize and drive to the margins the conduct of elections in the local governments. Whereas, if you look at the mandate of INEC, on the other hand, is elaborate. And then also the laws and the pinning and the guiding the SECs. In fact, in most of the states, they are non-existent. But if you look at if you look at INEC, you look at its trajectory going back to when it was established, the laws have been reviewed. The Electoral Act has been reviewed from Electoral Act 2002, Electoral Act 2006, Electoral Act 2010 as amended, and then the Electoral Act 2022. Now, when you now subject the SECs to scrutiny, you will not see any body of laws and the PNO and the guiding their conduct. So a lot of things need to be done. And I believe that rather than scrap the SECs and overburden INEC, which also has its own challenges, the best thing is to address the challenges that the SECs face.
All right. Many thanks, Mr. Dzang. Of course, we'll come back to you talking about addressing the challenges of the state independent electoral commissions. But the question is, can it actually be effectively addressed? Let's get to Samson Etodo now. I'd like to hear your views about scrapping of the state independent electoral commissions. Of course, I quoted you earlier at the start of this program. You talked about too much burden for INEC and all of that, and then what the Constitution says, and like he said, for true federalism. But, give us in details. Why do you really think that scrapping of the state independent electoral commissions will not do us good?
Well, thank you very much.
All right, looks like we have a network connection there with Samson Etodo. Of course, we'll definitely get back to him. But let's speak with Sam Ilianya now. You heard my question. I want to know, what side are you on? Are you for or against scrapping of the state independent electoral commissions, and your reasons? All right, looks like
we're having challenges, network challenges with our Zoom guest. So let's just come back to you. And you mentioned, you emphasized the need that the challenges being faced by SECs should be addressed.
Yes.
How do we go about addressing these issues? Because some of the challenges you mentioned can also be found in INEC as well. You
Yes.
understand? So how do we go about addressing these issues instead of scrapping the SECs?
Yeah, certainly INEC also has its own challenges. But on the rung of the ladder, INEC is several rungs above the 6, in the sense that, apart from the fact that sometimes the 6 are not legally constituted, they don't also have a structure. They don't have the benefit of permanent staff. You know, people who work there as bureaucrats, who service the system, who carry out the operations of the commissions, the various commissions, and therefore, at the end of the day, there is coherence, there is sustainability, and also there is institutional memory. You can fall back on what the staff has experienced in the past to improve on the conduct of elections, which the 6 don't have. So the 6 need to have a structure, just like INEC has a structure. You have bureaucrats led by a permanent secretary appointed by the commission, and directors at the headquarters, and then at the state level you also have administrative secretaries and directors manning the various departments, and then these are also reflected at the level of the local governments, where you have an electoral officer in charge of each local government, 774 local governments. Okay. Now you need to have that structure.
Talking about that structure, some state governments would say that that's not possible because it would mean increase.
Yes,
in
I'm coming to
the number of staff that they have.
The corollary to that is that they must be well funded. They must be. You can't, if you want to conduct elections, you must fund the commissions to the extent that they don't have to go to INEC, you know, borrowing cubicles and ballot papers. They need to have their own facilities. They don't have to go to INEC, depend on INEC facilities. They need to have their offices manned by their own staff. And then you need also to, like I said, have laws that are reviewed based on, as you test the laws, you review them. Like what, in the case of INEC, I've mentioned that since 2002, the laws have been reviewed. As elections are conducted, challenges arise, you review the laws to address the challenges. The 6 don't have that benefit. Then also you need to appoint people who have unimpeachable integrity and character. You don't just appoint people based on patronage because somebody taught you in school. I know of a state where the governor told me he appointed the chairperson of the SEC because the person taught him in high school. I'm not saying that the person is not capable, but I thought that the overriding concern should be competence. So you need...
Maybe he has seen the competence of the...
Yes, I'm trying to... I'm trying to mitigate my criticism by saying that the person may be competent, but the overriding concern should not be patronage. It should be the ability to deliver and the ability also to inspire confidence and respect, to also inspire neutrality, integrity, transparency. These are some of the things that the 6 lack, and we must imbue them, we must invest them with these qualities if we want elections at that level to be at par or beyond what INEC conducts. We need to do that. We need to fund them robustly, you know, and then we need also to continue to not only reform the laws, but introduce technologies that improve the conduct of elections at that level. Since 2002, for example, INEC has severally introduced all manner of technologies, from the OMR forms to EVM, that is the EVS, electronic voting system, to and all these PVCs and so on. They are all components of the EVS, the electronic voting system. So over the years, systematically, INEC has been introducing technology to improve the conduct of elections, to make them more transparent. Some may not have worked the way they ought to, but at least there's an effort to improve. And people see this improvement, and that earns INEC trust. It earns confidence. And it is when these technologies don't work that, you know, there's a trust deficit. So the SEX need to have the benefit of these kinds of technological efforts. For example, CATSEC, that is Kaduna State Independent Electoral Commission, introduced electronic balloting.
Okay.
It may not have worked very well, but at least it was an attempt to improve on the conduct of elections. I've not seen any effort by any of the SEX to introduce any measure or modicum of technology since.
But you see, a lot of people
started.
would still argue with you that even with the technology you're talking about, the structure, the fact that the governors would appoint whoever heads the State Independent Electoral Commission, they can still be swayed.
Yes. In fact, my own argument is that even at the national level, you need to take the appointment of the chairman of INEC, national commissioners, and resident electoral commissioners outside the purview of the presidency. In other jurisdictions, what is done is that these positions are advertised, the requisite qualifications or requirements are put there, people are either nominated or they apply, and then at the end of the day, when they are shortlisted, people can now, if they don't approve of certain individuals, they have issues, they petition. And based on that, they can be dropped.
Okay,
so
Nick,
we need to come to that.
Let me just interject you briefly, because while you were speaking, we have a guest coming, the second guest in the studio, Ahmed Abubakar Tanimu, Esquire. Is human rights activist and private legal practitioner. You're welcome to the conversation this morning on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you for having me.
We're talking about the scrapping of state electoral commissions here. But maybe Henry,
yes, looks like Samson Itodo is fully with us now, and the connection is strong and healthy. Samson Itodo, so if you got my first question to you is about why you were against, because of course that's in public domain that you're against, rather Yaga Africa is against the scrapping of the State Independent Electoral Commissions. Could you give us your reasons, really?
Well, good morning once again. Please confirm you can hear me this time.
we can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Please confirm you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. All right. No points being raised, and I totally agree with my boss, who is in the studio, that the proposal to scrap is fundamentally flawed. That's what the government it's bad, it's poor, but there are several.
All right, Samson, so the connection is still not too good. We hope we can perfect that connection so we can hear your views clearly on the program this morning. So before we get back to Sam Miliania, who is also joining us via Zoom, let's speak with our guest right here in the studio, Ahmed Abubakar Tanimu, Esquire. Of course, we're talking about the scrapping of the State Independent Electoral Commissions. What are your views? Are you for or against?
Definitely, I am for. And the reasons are quite numerous. You see, since '99, when we had proper structure in the local government, elections were conducted by INEC. No matter how flawed the election might be, we have a semblance of local government having autonomy, having chairmen that were performing. But ever since the state realized, and what is in the constitution, that they have the responsibility of conducting election, in all the states of the federation, no exception, what they normally do is that the governor just, I don't even believe that elections are being conducted, because you discover that the government in power will return as successful 99% at times. They maybe leave maybe a councillorship to the other opposition party. That is not fair. That is not that's not reflecting the yearnings and aspiration of the common Nigerian. States over time, they have failed in their responsibility. We have the state assemblies. They are supposed to be checkmating what the governor is doing and not doing right. But over time, we've seen how power play, they've lost that right. Rather, they are now awarding governors award They are the beck and call of the governors. The governors do whatever they like, and there's no control, no check and balances. So if we must have state elections to continue to succeed, there are certain fundamental reforms. In fact, it should be constitutional, so that the issue of local government autonomy will be strengthened through electioneering. But as it is, what we have at the moment is just a charade. It's not electioneering at the local government level, because states are responsible for it. But if you look at it, if INEC at the national level are allowed more manpower, more resources, they were able to conduct routine election. There are states, for the past 8 years, they've not conducted election. They keep appointing sole administrators, all at the beck and call of the governor. So that is not healthy for our democracy. We need to nourish, and the democracy that we are, our national democracy is now, has been in existence for quite a while now, that by now we should be talking about advancements. Rather, we are retrogressing, because, as I said, for every electioneering circle at the local level handled by the various state electioneering, no matter the technological advancement, because of manual involvement and manipulation, the system did not allow the system to flow. So at the national level, INEC will not be that interested in determining who becomes the local government chairman. There is an element of independence in it, no matter what we have. If the same election will produce state houses of assembly members, why wouldn't they equally conduct election for the local government and the councillorship at the ward level? That is the most important aspect of governance. And because you can see from all indices, because the local governments are not functioning, that is why we are having a lot of challenges. Development, dividends of democracy is not really trickling down. Everything stops at the state level. The control, as you can see, every attempt by the government to bring innovation is being resisted by the very, very powerful governors. And they get these powers mainly because we have a flawed system, that they are now the people controlling the system. You cannot be a judge in your own case, and you will not be expected to lose such kind of cases. So that is just what we have. Until we have improvement, whereby there will be element of independence, the element of check and balances, the state electoral commission should not be at the control of the state governor, regardless of the appointment. The fact that they are not the one responsible for it will create some elements of credibility. If you look at state House of Assembly members, the reps, there are quite kind of some element of, at least Nigerians were able to say yes, even with the flaws identified, but it has a semblance of reflecting the yearning and aspiration of the electorate.
But a lot of people have argued that instead of scrapping the sex, why not address the challenges, that they are facing right now? Because some of these challenges can also be identified with what goes on with INEC as well. You understand? And the principle of federalism. And what does the Constitution say? What does it say about the state as opposed to run the electoral commission at the local government level and all that? So why would you now do a selective adjustment? Why?
The adjustment here, we are equally talking about even INEC itself. A lot of people are calling for disintegration of INEC, so be taken into compartments so that they can perform optimally. Yeah. We are calling for reform of INEC. It should be a routine and periodic activity. So INEC at the national level, not that they are perfect, but they are 100 times better than what we have at state level. Our own thinking was that when state had the opportunity, I think they should have shown good example. They should be paragon of what democracy represents. We thought state governors will be able to now, what the changes and what we envision, they should be able to reflect it in their various states. But what we have at the moment is abuses across board. You cannot find a single state where elections are being conducted transparently. The Constitution, there's no gain denying the fact that the Constitution empowers states to conduct such election because of federalism. But if you look at it, our federal structure, a lot of people too are calling for reform. Are the states viable? Are the states, have they live up to expectation? Most of the states basically are surviving on the federal government allocation. So in the real context, we have federalism, but we are practicing
a unitary system of government whereby the states are not that independent by choice, not by what the Constitution provides. So if you have not been able to live up to your expectation in terms of being self-reliant, self-sufficient, then equally the mandate of you wanting to conduct election where over time it has been systematic, they've been abusing the process. Nobody wastes his time to go and contest a local government election if you are not have been handpicked. They just simply have a roll call, a list, and you be the local government chairman of this 100%. Even in Kaduna, where they brought in electronic voting, we also how it all went. Still the same manipulation. A system, technological advancement can only work when the operators allow it to work. It's what you garbage in that will naturally come out. So we've seen practical manipulation in the system. Our laws are there to be reformed. Laws are meant to serve the people. Over time, the constitutional provisions have not really served the people, and that is why the clamor for constitutional amendment will continue. And this is one of the such clamor. The states have independence, they are autonomous, but the process of electing leaders is quite important. That should not be left in the hands of any single governor to continue to manipulate.
All right, thank you so much, Ahmed Tanemo Esquire. Let's try if connection with Samson Etodo is better now and clearer. Samson Etodo, if you can hear me loud and clear, I'd like you to please respond to the earlier question to you.
Thank you very much. Please confirm you can hear me.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah, I think the point about scrapping sex, like I mentioned earlier, is fundamentally flawed on different fronts. First, I'd like to note that, yes, the call, for the scrapping of sex is based on the status quo, is based on the historical antecedents of where they are not only disempowered, but they are incapable of conducting high quality elections at the local government level. And those reasons are not far-fetched. The fact that governors have hijacked, the entire structure for conducting local government elections as a way of exercising, overbearing powers on those institutions. If you look at, why we are where we are because the structural mechanisms in place in the state independent electoral commissions is not guaranteed in the Constitution. And this is why it is important that whilst we think about scrapping of sex, the question we should ask ourselves is, have we protected and shielded the sex from capture, just like we have done for INEC? The answer is no. And so what we need to do, is to look at one, why is it that state governors do not conduct elections after, how do state independent electoral commissions don't conduct elections, after the term of office of local government chairman elapses? It is because there is no clarity, there's ambiguity on the question relating to the tenure of the local government councils. So we need to deal with that. The second point is that you scrap sex, you transfer the powers to INEC. INEC is suffocating with a lot of responsibilities. INEC have said, please take away this responsibility of electoral offenses prosecution, because it comes with the commission with a lot of burden. This same INEC that is screaming that its responsibilities are too enormous is the same INEC we want to saddle with the responsibility of conducting local council elections. And so I think it is quite unfortunate that we're making that call at this moment, because we want to just suffocate the Electoral Commission if we transfer that responsibility to INEC. The third critical point, which is very important, is this discussion around local government autonomy. I think that is ironical that on one hand, there is a clamor for local government autonomy. On the other hand, there is also a clamor for centralization. Because what you're simply saying is you want the federal government to be involved in the administration of local council elections. It defeats the entire argument of decentralization of power, and we will strip people of the opportunity, to contribute to local governance at the local government level. So I think that the proposal shouldn't be scrapping sex. The proposal should be, how do we guarantee the independence of state independent electoral commissions, and also limit the exercise of power that the governors do at the state level by, circumventing the constitutional provisions, as limited as they are, by ensuring that state independent electoral commissions are liberated, from the influence of the governors. That should be the conversation. That is what will strengthen our electoral democracy at the local level.
Those who are for the scrapping of the state independent electoral commissions would argue with you that having INEC handle elections does not affect the local government autonomy in any way. In fact, it will strengthen it, because that way you're having one electoral body in the country running the affairs of elections at whatever level, and ensuring, that these elections are as credible as possible. Instead of having 36 states independent electoral commissions that, you may not be too sure. Even when one or two states get it right, other states may give you problems. So what's your take? And then you're talking about suffocating INEC. If more responsibility is handed over to INEC now to handle state local government elections, of course, there will be plans to strengthen INEC. So could you respond to this?
Well, so let me start with the last point. And when we say there will be plans to strengthen INEC, there will be plans to strengthen INEC how? Now, even the Electoral Commission, INEC, as presently constituted, still has some trappings of lack of independence. So when you look at the appointments of INEC and the Commission, and we've always advocated in line with Justice Uwe's committee's recommendation, that one way to secure the independence of the INEC is to divest the power of appointing the INEC chairman and the national commissioners from the president. We are all witnesses to the fact that last year, there were individuals with clear partisan leanings, individuals that campaigned for political parties, who were appointed and confirmed by the Senate, who are currently in INEC. And that undermines the independence and the neutrality of the Electoral Commission. INEC has its own challenges. And so let's not neglect the fact that even though INEC has some measure of independence, but some of the elections INEC has conducted also fails the integrity test. And you look at recent off-cycle elections in Kogi, Bayelsa, and even Imo, you see how consistently the quality of elections have actually diminished. And INEC is still grappling with just managing the logistics, of those elections, coupled with, other responsibilities of electoral offenses prosecution, of political party registration and regulation, boundary delimitation. These responsibilities are too enormous for one institution, to undertake. And this is why you have a lot of administrative and procedural shortcomings. Strongly view that INEC needs to be unburdened of some of the responsibilities that it has, and it's in line with the wisdom clearly articulated and expressed in Justice Uwe's committee's report. The other point about whether if INEC or one electoral body conducts elections at the local level, it doesn't in any way undermine, local government autonomy. The central question is centralization. The whole concept of centralization, when you centralize, you no longer distribute and devolve power for local communities, to engage and participate in elections. And what do I mean? As it presently constituted, state independent electoral commissions, the governors appoint the chair, the secretary, and the commissioners. They also appoint, the officers who manage elections at the local government level. Those people who manage those elections are people who come from those states. So you give the people the opportunity, to manage the elections. They are part of the decision making about how elections are governed. In INEC, it is not the same because it's a federal institution. You can take individuals from Borno and deploy them, to Rivers as electoral officers. Whilst there's an advantage of doing that at the federal elections, it's different, from a state elections. And so you give people the opportunity to participate, because the whole concept of devolution of powers is to enable people exercise what you call local autonomy about their decisions. Now, the mode of making those decisions is critical because it has to meet certain tests, and is a test of transparency, is a test of accountability. And this is at the heart of the discussion, is that in the management of state independent electoral commissions and local government elections, have state independent electoral commissions been transparent and independent? The answer is no. And the reason why is because there are some constitutional gaps that needs to be fixed. So my argument is, why not fix those gaps and see if the states do not exercise the kind of independence? And let's not forget, history, tells us that the same challenges that state independent electoral commissions face were the same challenges INEC was facing 10, 15 years ago, until the reforms were undertaken and attention was placed on INEC. If we place the same attention and focus and the we make on INEC at the state level and the subnational level, I bet next 5 to 10 years, there will be radical reforms at the state, because we've vetted the states the way they choose without recourse to the Constitution is what us to where we.
Well, thank you very much, Itodo, there, for your contribution. He has raised a lot of issues there. But before we come back to the studio, let's try our second Zoom guest, Sam. If you are Sam, are you still with us? Okay, let's have your own thought. Let's have your take on the scrapping of the State Independent Electoral Commission, the proposed scrapping. Let's have your take.
Can you hear me?
Please go ahead.
Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you clearly. Go ahead.
Okay. I might have to approach from a different angle. I do not think it's a question of whether we need to scrap or not to scrap. I think it's high time that for Nigeria. Nation builders did not just sit down, deploy tools and platforms, and at the very first appearance of challenges, they turn around and they look for new tools. That's been our story. At the 1787 Constitutional Congress of the US, a woman asked Benjamin Franklin, "Doctor, what have we got, a republic or a monarchy?" And the 81-year-old statesman said, "We have got a republic, but if you can keep it." And that is the challenge of the hour. Every single time we have gotten ourselves a new constitutional instrument, what we sit down, NGO operators, election officers, politicians, is to start looking for gaps and holes as to why we, which our founding fathers, the latest one, have just told us that's what we need to move forward. So that's why I disagree with the gentleman who just spoke right now in the Constitution that prevents we being able to have elections at the local government level. What the problem, I believe, is what Mr. Franklin said. Is that we need to run a republic. I think Nigeria is a game. It's a ping pong. And one of the most important personality that our country has, that has been given to us to ensure that we have a public, is the Attorney General, Federation and State. And for me, that's really what what pains me the most. I mean, I can understand politicians who out of the next conference saying what they are saying, but what I cannot understand is when the law officer of the nation, the one person who has no business excoriating or making any portion of our constitution look like something that cannot work, when he starts saying, I cannot deal with this aspect except it is changed. That for me is a problem. There are so many tools that we've been given in the Constitution to enable the AG to go out there and ensure that the laws are working as to elections. Go through the past 24 years now, go back before that, get back to the very first time we had the first election body in 1958. Trace back the same elements, the same issues that have spoiled all those experiments. It's still the same issue today. The same thing that keeps on being prescribed by politicians and by social sector can we change? What new laws can we make? Not let people do their job. For instance, there is no such thing as more independence for local governments. There is no such thing as guaranteeing local governments. Local governments are supposed to be things that at the beginning, because we did not have a natural system where you from the bottom, here we began from the top and we model it, and then from there things evolve and escalate. So you cannot begin to guarantee things like that in the Constitution. The US Constitution is just a very small book. It provides guidelines. And from there, people are allowed to build out the system as time, convenience, and expediency dictates. That's what I think we are not getting right here. We keep on framing this argument as an either or. Do we scrap them? Do we replace them? Do we move them up to the National Electoral Body, forgetting that this is one of the most incompetent body that we have ever had? And this is not slurring that body. There are a lot of logistical challenges that we do not have that have made sure that we can have elections in Nigeria as well as we would love to. The real issue, and I want to repeat before I stop, is that at the local government level, we have refused to say clearly, this is a third tier of government. We don't operate a monarchy at that level. We do not operate an homonymous system at that level. We need to allow Nigeria's people to exercise their sovereignty at that level, which means instead of thinking of how to take their powers back to the center, the issue should be how do we get the state electoral bodies to devolve some of those powers back to people at the unit level, ward level, and other smaller level. Why is it such a very difficult thing for us to sit down in our polling units, do our elections, count it, and send in the results? This is how it is done. US elections are conducted at a local level. Nobody is thinking of how to have a central place somewhere where someone in Abuja gets to tell us the result of polling unit we have down here. We can cut down cost. We can bring transparency back to the people. We can get them to participate in this system if we just ask our ages to look at tools that will make it non-attractive again for governors and LGA chairman or whoever else is in that space to know that it will be hurting to them if they play with that system. That's the job of the AG, not to be a reformer. Thank you.
Enyanya, I'd like to stay with you. You are saying, take powers to the people. But, in our electoral process, there are quite a number of issues away from the electoral bodies themselves. Talking about the state independent electoral commissions and then INEC now. There's this issue about security, that's... some of the things you're saying, having the people, do their stuff without having to involve, federal might and, if you like, the security system like we operate at the moment, will cause a lot of issues. And then the economic situation, there's this issue of vote buying. So even when you let the people decide, sometimes they can also be swayed financially, and all of that. There's also the issue of voter apathy. A lot of Nigerians just see election as, another day for them to get involved in their house chores and all of that. They're not interested in elections in the country. So there are quite a number of issues that affect even, the average person in that ward or local government you're talking about as regards elections. So in your own view, what is the way forward? What is the way out to strengthen our electoral process, just so that, beyond the electoral bodies, every Nigerian can begin to stand up and take elections seriously?
Thank you for the question. And the answer is what I already told you. We have a way of dealing with matters in a lawful and constitutional way that can be replicated over and over and over again. And our laws provide that the law officers of this country ensure that the constitutionally elected total of government, is established and upheld in our system. All the things that you have outlined, they are real. Whether you have INEC or you have state electoral bodies swelling these elections, all those things will exist. Voter party, for instance. I remember when I was a child, my mother in the village, even though she didn't have a law, I remember that they would troop out to the village square, meet together with politicians. When it was time for elections, they would go out, cast their vote, thumbprint, and back they go. I have tried in the last 20 years to go out to go and vote. It's almost impossible. Why? Because of the over-militarization of political space, because the center is drafting in all the security forces, trying to use force to get elections to go. They're saying that we have tried that several times. We've had like 9 electoral bodies. 1989 rather, under the IBB administration. The national body conducted LG elections. You want to go and look at the result. It was so horrible, the electoral register in some cases could not be found at all. The reports and the about. So we have done this, and we are also doing other ones, and we are saying it's not working. Is it not working? It's not working because the operators are not sincere. The AG, who has the duty to ensure that people get to understand that tampering with election at that level amounts, in a sense, to treason, has not found the tool to be able to do that. And that's an easier thing to do. And we're saying that there's a reason why you have removed the office of the AG from the office of the National Reform Commission. Because he's not supposed to be an activist trying to reform our laws. His job is to ensure that our laws are upheld. Say this law needs to work. We don't have anyone doing that first of all for us. Until we do that, we cannot say it's not working. We have to have people who do that. When we have done that, we can then say it's not working. Not that we have tried and no, it doesn't work because we haven't done what we're supposed to do legally. Until we do that, I'm saying that all of this ping pong we are playing, this nation's destiny, it's just it's not an adult thing to do.
All right, thank you, Sam. We have to ensure that all our laws are working. All right, we'll get back to you later, but let's get back to the studio. But before we come back to the studio, we need to go for a break. Then when we come back from the break, then we'll follow up on the conversation. Thank you. Stay with us.
From the Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara, we rise, a land of the free, we know they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like palm tree, we swear in colors, we stand back in demand, we make solutions, we ignite passion, yeah. Diversity is unique, we have more than just a nation. We are Nigeria, strengthening unity, we know they carry life.
I am the real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
Meet lovebirds Jayola and Adama Davies. Their dream of living together as man and wife has finally been fulfilled.
The latest couple in town. Hey! Mr. and Mrs. Jaye Davis!
But an invasion by their troublesome families was not a scenario they bargained for. Her mother moves in. His mother shows up with his little niece. Then her younger sister joins the scramble.
You want to stay?
Married life suddenly becomes very complicated even before it started. Follow their story on this channel as they confront every challenge as it comes. Family forever, the story of our lives.
The lights are on and the stage is set for dreams to take flight. Who will be the next idol? Watch Nigerian Idol live performances every Sunday at 7 p.m. and you get to decide by voting for your favorite contestant. You can vote via website, mobile site, or by using the My DSTV or My GoTV app with no stress. To vote via website or mobile site, simply visit africanmagic.tv/Nigerian Idol. Click on vote, register, and then enter your details and a password of your choice. It's easy and it's free. You can also get AWOOF votes for your favorite Nigerian Idol contestants. All you have to do is download the My DSTV or My GoTV app and you have more voting power at your fingertips. Visit the websites for more information. Voting opens on Sundays after the live shows and closes every Thursday at 8 p.m. Remember, vote for your favorites each week and you get to decide this year's Nigerian Idol.
Nigerian Idol Season 9 is proudly sponsored by Techno, Stop at Nothing, and Biggie for every moment.
You have to move from the point where you protect and defend your religion to a point where you also recognize the rights of the other person, of the other religion, and protect it. So if I am protecting my own territory and my own people and trying to emphasize their rights and protect their rights, I should also be thinking about how to protect the rights of the others.
Both Islam and Christianity recognize and defer to God, and both recognize the temporariness of the life of this world, and that ultimately we all go back to God for the day of reckoning, when everybody will render an account of his life on this temporary abode.
Thanks for staying with us. You are still watching Good Morning Nigeria, and our conversation is still on the scrapping of the State Independent Electoral Commission, and we still have our guest in the studio. Now, let's come back to Unique. You've heard the discussions and contributions from all our guests, and you seem to be in the middle. You're neither for nor against. But my question would be...
I stand with 6,
okay,
with provisos,
okay,
which is that they need to be invested with, they need to be strengthened, they need to be invested.
Yes, that was exactly my question.
Exactly.
Well, how do we go about reforming the system now?
Well, we need to look at the laws, and then we now need to also look at, apart from what is enshrined in the Constitution, the laws, we need to look at the laws that are used to conduct elections in the local governments. I have cited the case of INEC, where apart from the constitutional provisions, the Electoral Act also expands on what the Constitution says. And the two documents are used together to conduct elections. The Electoral Act draws its inspiration and afflatus from the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land. By the same token, we expect that the 6 should also have their own laws that draw from their mandate as enunciated in the Constitution, which most of them don't have. So you need to have that, and you need also to look at the type of people you appoint as chairpersons and members of 6. And I had said it here before, that you need people who have unimpeachable integrity.
How do you determine that?
And, well, if there are people who have integrity, we know. We know. Let me give you an example. When 1 or 2 persons who had affiliations with political parties were appointed by former President Buhari and President Tinubu, Nigerians called their attention with evidence that these people have partisan interests, and therefore the conduct of elections by them will be colored by that partisanship. And we saw it in one of the states where a electoral commissioner, was largely massively rigging the election in favor of a particular candidate. And that is part of why some of us see danger in taking back elections even to INEC. Because even as we speak now, there are people at resident electoral commissioners that are alleged to be partisans. Now, assuming you ask INEC to conduct the elections, and one of these recs is going to conduct the election in the local government, and he sympathizes with a particular political party, are you expecting the election to be credible? It won't be, because already the man has taken sides. He's not impartial. He's not neutral, and therefore he cannot be transparent. By the same token, we have seen in another jurisdiction, outside 1999 to 2024, under a military dispensation, where an INEC chairman was corralled by the military government to manipulate elections, local government elections, and he resisted, as a result of which he resigned. And the federal government then said they had irreconcilable differences with him. Now, this man did that out of strength of character, out of integrity. He said he will not do it. Now, assuming you now have an INEC chairman who is at the beck and call of the presidency, and the presidency tells him, go and manipulate elections, and then there is violence at the end of the day, what happens? And that is why we are saying, instead of scrapping stakes and taking their responsibility and giving them to INEC, the best way is to look at the challenges that the stakes have, address these challenges, and over time they will come to par with INEC or even surpass INEC. INEC also had issues along the way, but with reforms, of the laws, with also scrutiny by the media and civil society, INEC continued to improve, and that is where we are. In spite of the fact that you can say that the 2023 general elections and the last 3 off-cycle governorship elections were not stellar in terms of performance, as other elections that were conducted in, say, Ekiti, Oshun, and then previous governorship elections in Edo and Ondo. So there is danger in saying you just take these elections and give them to INEC. When we have seen that even in this dispensation, there are persons who have their loyalties to certain political parties.
Okay. All right, Nick Dazanga, let's pause you and get to something Itojo now. But, talking about the impeachable integrity you were talking about, some people would say, well, even when you have that integrity before you get into office, once you're appointed by a certain governor, and then he gives you his orders.
The point is, if people know you have integrity, if they know you have character, they are not likely to approach you to do something bad, especially when they know that you rebuff them. I've seen it. I'm a witness to it.
All right, let's.
I've also been a witness to where somebody was craven. He was willing to ingratiate himself. So I've seen all these tendencies.
Okay.
And it tells me that if somebody knows that I will not do a wrong thing, it is very difficult. It will be very challenging for him to approach me.
Okay.
Whereas if he knows that I'm pliant, I'm pliable, I can be manipulated, he will take advantage of it.
All right.
All right. Okay. Let's get to Samson Itojo now. Okay.
Before you go to Samson, I just want to ask him one question. Before we go to Samson, you are canvassing for the scrapping of sex, but people have argued that the problem, the challenge, actually is not about the law; it's about the people, the actors themselves. So instead of scrapping, why don't you begin to find a way in which we can get the right people, just like he said, and get the people mindset, reset, rejig. You understand? So that we can have the right people, manning all these offices.
The facts are glaring. The right people will never find their way to that position, because when you have governors that are hell-bent on controlling local government, all the local government, why do you have a ministry for local government of chieftaincy affairs? All what they do is to just, I want to say it very categorically, is just to use the funds for the local government, funds that are meant for developmental projects. They just find their way to the pockets of individuals. We cannot allow that. It's not about the law. Nigerian laws are perfect. We have never allowed the law to even try to even work. Rather, we always call for amendment. When we amend it, the same set of people will not allow the law. People making argument. Look at INEC. They conduct election for state House of Assembly members, and nobody is saying independence of the state. Even at that, you now have state houses of assembly that are under the control of the governors. They dine together, they receive directives from the governor. So this is the one that even INEC has conducted, and we has some semblance of a fair and credible, there's some element of credibility in it, yet they are always at the beck and call of the governor. I don't think in Nigeria there's any state of assembly that is truly independent and that have been performing their function in that line, in the sense that they are supposed to be exerting check and balances on the governor. The executive, the legislature, they are supposed to provide that check. But in the context of what we are today, state houses of assembly are under the control of governors. There's nobody is even saying anything. In fact, willingly, they are refusing constitutional amendment that will give local government autonomy. They refuse to vote for it. So it's not about saying that the laws are okay, the people have not been implemented. We have a structural problem. Power corrupts absolutely when it's in the hands of a single individual. The governors are one of the most powerful set of individuals that no matter what you want to do, they find a way to always intervene, manipulate the system, and abuse the system. So if you have the national now coming in, if you look at the constitution, for the fact that we operate a federal system, the state government, the federal government, they are intertwined in certain areas. The federal government, because security is an exclusive issue, those clamoring for state police and the rest, we have seen what governors can do when you give them enormous power. So if you now continue in that line, we continue to have this same
But even
problem.
at the federal, they belong to a particular party. Don't you think that can also influence, you know, the participation of INEC in it?
Our clamor is not only against the various state election commission, even INEC. We want a holistic implementation of the UWES report. But the actors, the politicians in power, they don't want it. They know that if elections, look at all the innovations being made by INEC, but we don't see that. When elections were conducted, the recent election, people were expecting the get results real time, and unfortunately, as the other speaker talked about, the lawyers, which I'm part of, we are equally culpable in a way, in the sense that the fact that you have laws that are not being implemented is a big challenge. The Attorney General of various states, even at the national level, has that enormous power, has that responsibility. Then the courts, how far have the court gone in terms of judicial activism? If state houses of assembly, national assembly refuse to make law, if you make judicial pronouncement, sound judicial pronouncement, it will compel them to now implement and amend the law. But we don't, over time, we tend to stick to interpretation of the constitution in the literal context. We should go beyond that. People should be compelled to do what is right.
Okay. All right, compelled to do what is right. Of course, that is directed at the governors now. So another question will be, how do we tame governors, just so that we know we can get things right. Ahmed Tanimu Esquire, thank you so much for your views. Let's get to Samson Itodu now. Samson, you have already talked about the need for the state independent electoral commissions to be independent and transparent as being the way forward. Just give us a bit of steps you think that we can take. You know, Ahmed has talked about the issues with the governors. You know, they want to be on top of everything. They want to control everything. So is there a way out of this?
Well, There's a way out of this, and all that we have said, it's not new. So one, if you want to safeguard the independence of an institution, there are two dimensions to this. The first, it's the operational and the financial independence. So how are state independent electoral commissions funded? Can they be funded from the state consolidated fund like we have, for INEC? Because what you see happen at the state is that the state governors starve the state independent electoral commissions and they are unable to conduct local government elections. At YIGA Africa, we are working with on local government elections. And I can tell you that some of the complaints that the SECs have actually tabled before us is the fact that they are still awaiting appropriation, they are still awaiting release of funds for them to be able to fix election dates. These are the things that we need to address. How do we make it difficult, for governors to be using their powers, starve electoral commissions from accessing funds? Because that's one way to rig elections across the world, when you encroach on the financial independence of the electoral commission. So institute, some mechanisms in the Constitution, as well as the electoral laws of the different states that secures the financial independence of those institutions. The second point, it's about the term of office of local government councils. Now, by virtue of Section 150 of the 2022 Electoral Act, which compels state independent electoral commissions, to conduct local government elections in tandem with the procedure laid out in Part 5 of the Electoral Act. Because one of the attempts the National Assembly made to sanitize local government elections was to compel states, independent electoral commissions, to conduct elections in line with the provisions of the Electoral Act. And the National Assembly, relying on the constitutional powers it has, made those provisions. And today, state independent electoral commissions are beginning to align some of the laws and the guidelines in line with the Electoral Act. But that particular law is insufficient. So the same way we are clamoring for the appointment, the removal of the power to appoint the INEC chairman and national commissioners and resident electoral commissioners from the president in line with Justice Uwe's recommendations, is the same clamor for the states. So governors should not have the power to appoint their stooges, their loyalists into the state independent electoral commissions. But we need to address the question of the terms of office, because for the Constitution to say that local government shall be constituted by democratically elected local governments without clearly stipulating the term of office like we have done for president, for governors, and for national and state legislatures, I think provides an opportunity for us to address these sort of shortcomings. The other, perhaps, fundamental issue around strengthening SECs is the fact that we need political education. A lot of people at the local government level do not participate in local elections. And so whilst we think about legislative or legal reforms, there is also need for character reforms on the part of the voters. And local governments are the closest governments to you. So it's important to participate at that local level, because if the demand, for accountability is not high, then the supply side will be low. And this is the situation that we have at the state level. And lastly, I just want to urge those proponents for scrapping local governments to exercise, caution, because on one hand, we can't be clamoring for local government autonomy. We can't be clamoring for devolution and decentralization. And on the other hand, we still want a form of centralization. It defeats the entire purpose, of decentralization and distribution of power. And I think that we are at a point, we have an opportunity now to liberate our local government system, and good a thing that there are broader discussions around local government autonomy. But let's not divorce local government elections from local government autonomy, because they are all intrinsically linked. But scrapping SEC it's not the best way to go for our democracy.
Thank you very much, Itodo there. Scrapping SEC is not the best way to go for our democracy. Let's go to our second guest, the Zoom guest, Sam. I want to raise this issue of the getting people's participation in the electoral system, which is one of the issues that Itodo raised there. That how do we educate, the people at the grassroots, especially during the election, to protect? Because I heard a story of what happened sometime in Edo State, where the people, rose to protect their votes in a particular local government election to ensure that actually the right person was declared the winner. So how do we begin to create that awareness amongst the grassroots people?
Okay, thank you for the question. As I indicated before, I really want to be a one-trick pony for this conversation. People will come out for elections if they know that if anybody tries to undermine that election, that there will be consequences. People will come out for elections if they know that if somebody assaults them, that somebody will go and investigate. Somebody will hold those culpable and have them held to a certain account. People will come out for voting if they know that their votes will count. And guess what? All of these things are not things to do with law reform. And that's where I want to keep on hammering this morning. There is now an epidemic in our country that anytime we identify a problem, we do not extend honor to those who have gone before us, who have made laws before us. It's as if everybody thinks that they know everything, past, today, and future. There has to be a presumption that our founding fathers were bright enough to make laws for us, and that they trusting us to hold up the torch of enforcing it is a worthy goal. That again is where the Attorney General becomes vital. And guess what? One of the most autonomous offices constitutionally established is that of the office of the AG. And his job is to ensure that citizens can have a perception that is concrete at a certain level that says someone is looking out for me. Elections are not things that institutions deliver. They are not things that politicians deliver. I have had a lot of talk here about if only appoint people who are not partisans. Where are you going to get them from? In the US, the electoral body is often made up of equal number of partisans. And so it's a stalemate. Nobody will push each other around. So I'm not even one to advocate for that artificial self-deceit. You can find somebody who somehow has the integrity to go in there and use that person's integrity to get all these things done. The only way that people get into public offices, whether they have integrity or not, because even a person with integrity can sometimes not be on his A game or can sometimes be deceived. But when he or she knows that the law demands that if they step out of line, their past will be forgotten and their today will dictate what will come to them consequentially. That's what I want to hammer on today. Our attorney generals are not doing their bits, and it is on them. So instead of the current AG trying to get us off on this red herring again, I commend to him this very important task that none of his predecessors have ever done before, which is to be a defender of the Constitution. Our Constitution is an orphan. It should not be that way. There has to be someone who listens to us and
Much, Sam, Eliana, Constitution should not be an orphan. Of course, we must uphold our Constitution. Thank you so much, Sam, Eliana. A beautiful way to end the conversation. But I just want, just in 20 seconds, Nick Dezang, what will be your last words on the program on how we can strengthen our electoral process in general?
Well, it already mentioned funding. And I had also mentioned that part of the challenge the SECs have is they have to always go and beg for funding. It shouldn't be. Let it be stated by law that they will draw their funding from the first line charge of the consolidated revenue of the state. You know, once you have that, you have solved a big problem. Because you don't give, if you give somebody a job to do and he's not empowered to do it, he's not likely to deliver.
Thank you so much, Nick Dazang, former Director, Voter Education and Publicity, INEC. Thank you for being our guest today. We appreciate your thoughts. Of course, Samson Itojo, Executive Director, Yaga Africa, thank you so much for joining us for the conversation. Ahmed Abubakar Tanimu Esquire, human rights activist and private legal practitioner, thank you so much for being a part of the conversation. And of course, Sam Eliania, Executive Director, Center for Republican Law and Policy and editor, publisher, lawnigeria.com. Thank you for your insight on the program. So, of course, that's Good Morning Nigeria this Tuesday. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Please remain tuned to the NTA. I'm Yen Ray John.
And I am Ademola Adio. Thanks for keeping a date with us.